Welcome to the Talking Timelines podcast. We are four women with 4 points of view and 4 accents with one common goal: to share insights and information about what's going on in the world from a higher consciousness perspective. No BS, no PC, just lots of ideas that you won't hear on mainstream media. We chat, we laugh, and most of all, we shed and share light. Join us each week as we talk timelines.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Timelines episode 3, and today I've got my lovely friends Laura and Lisa with me. Susan's dealing with snow and burst pipes, so she couldn't be with us today, which is weird in Mississippi. There's something going on down there, guys. Anyway, today we would like to be sharing some information with you about why we're actually on the planet, what is going on, why are we here, and found out some stuff about these drones and UFOs and other stuff. So that's where the conversation is headed today. And I hope you enjoy it. Right, so who's going to start?
Why don't you start, Janine?
I've been really binge watching a lot of stuff today about UFOs and stuff like that over the last week, because I like to do a bit of homework before the show anyway, and I found out quite a lot of stuff that I really didn't know, and I'm fairly in the loop of what's going on in the world. So the original big deal, and I did meet Mary Roswell actually many years ago when I spoke at a paranormal conference in the UK in 1947, the Roswell incident. And initially, the truth was out, there's an alien ship has landed, blah, 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 and then it became a big cover-up. Churchill got involved in it, and it was covered up, apparently, because he was worried about if people found out that there were extraterrestrial life forms, and they did actually find an ET alive. There was more than one of them alive, and who they experimented on, obviously, for about 5 years afterwards. He was worried about it destroying religion, which is interesting. So it was covered up. There were meetings with Eisenhower. And as we all know, his great-granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower, is on the scene sharing his information out there. I did an interview with her last year. And she's got some really interesting stuff to share. But even Eisenhower was warning the American public about the military-industrial complex. And I just wondered what you girls know about that. Do you know anything about it?
Well, what I know is that war is big business.
True.
Big business, big money, and it drives a lot more than we actually realize. It's behind a lot of things. And yeah, it's business. War is business, and wars are started. And you think about all the materials that are needed. You just think about what has to happen to go to war, and it's behind a lot. It's behind a lot. So I'm not surprised that that's who's behind this.
The military industrial complex is basically, it's a layer of military. We've all heard of the cabal being the dark government that are over the government. They're the ones with the money and in control. The military industrial complex, from what I understand of it, is a layer of the military that are above the military. So that even the president hasn't got any access to he's a nobody in their world. And basically what they're doing is they took the flying machine and they reverse engineered it. So they take it apart and figure out how it works and build their own. And that's what's been going on. But the problem with this MIC stuff is that they are selling that technology to foreign countries. So basically, it looks like they're selling the enemy high-tech information about what could be used as weapons of mass destruction. And it's people need to be more aware of this. If there's something out that is so hidden and above the president of America, there's something very dark going on there. If even he's not allowed to be given that information, I'm just hoping that Mr. T is, because he is very ballsy, let's face it, is going to kick the door down on that one, and this information, more of it's going to be released. But to be honest with you, people are asking when's disclosure, and if you watch Dr. Stephen Greer, I interviewed him years ago on my radio show, it's out. Disclosure is out. There is so much stuff on Tubi and Netflix now about UFO stuff and things like that. And it is disclosure. There, you've got the military on there with you videos of these flying crafts, and they're all different shapes and sizes. One of them looks like a Tic Tac, just like a white silvery sausage, no wings, no windows, nothing. All of that video is on there for people to see. And we're looking at potential here for massive disclosure on mainstream this year. If it's on Netflix, to me, Netflix is mainstream as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. It just needs to go from there to like the news at 10 or whatever.
Well, I was going to say that until it gets to mainstream, like, the 6 o'clock news, people aren't going to believe it. Because they've been hearing about it for so long that until they see it either on the front page of their newspaper or on the news, they're still not going to believe it.
The mainstream is now Netflix. And then when you look at Twitter too, X is becoming the mainstream too, because of all the, like, for example, like with they're like, the new administration, there's members like Elon and Vivek who are saying that they're going to be fully transparent with what's been going on. And then you have Trump that said that he's, even in a speech yesterday, the disclosures on at the inauguration, the disclosures on Martin Luther King, RFK, and also JFK. And so these people, they've all known about also the military industrial complex. They've known about who really runs the world, and it's not like, all the world leaders have been puppets. And causing mass destruction. So it's coming. It's definitely coming. And you look at the people that have been reporting on UFOs and aliens and ETs, like Michael Salla, like his channel on YouTube is phenomenal. Right now, for the last few months, he's got someone that's in a mask. He's from the army, and he's disclosing exactly what they've been told, everything. But he's keeping himself anonymous right now, as well as the other whistleblowers. Right.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple that I made some notes here, and there's a guy called Terry Lovelace who was a lawyer and a former assistant attorney. So, this like important guy in June 1977 in Arkansas, he was abducted and he didn't speak about it at all. And he's actually on this, Netflix series talking about how they x-rayed him and found implants in his body. They took him onto a spaceship. He said that they were all around him. He wasn't talking to them, and he's now like speaking out. So, some of these people, there's another guy who, a guy called Travis Walton, who was a worker that with some friends of his, they were like, out working, and they saw these bright lights, and he went towards it and ended up getting taken up, just like you see in a movie, up, through a channel into this UFO. And he was gone for 5 days. And when they brought him back, basically what had happened is he got too close to the flying saucer or whatever it was. They call them UAPs now, unidentified airborne phenomena, isn't it?
Right.
He got too close to it, and the electromagnetic frequency fried his nervous system. And basically they took him on board to resuscitate him and to heal him, and brought him back to life and brought him back to Earth 5 days later. So there's a lot of really big stories out there, but the one that I thought was people need to know about, that these ETs came in these flying saucers, whatever they are. They're generally not saucers these days, triangles and all sorts of shapes, but they switched off the nuclear weapons in the military, completely switched off for 15 seconds, and they were panicking, and then they switched it back on. So to me, that's not alien race that want to cause us harm. They're saying, switch this off, it's dangerous, we want to come and communicate with you, but we can override your technology in that respect. So that wasn't a threatening thing in my eyes anyway.
Janine, why was it only 15 seconds? Was it just sort of like a communication?
Yeah, I think it was just the ETs just saying, look, that's just kid stuff as far as we're concerned, like click of the fingers and it's all switched off. And I've always believed that anyway. And like you and I were talking earlier about how nuclear war is never going to happen on this planet, because there are beings that are over taking care of this sector of the universe, and they are extraterrestrial. I've seen them myself over the years many times, different shapes and sizes. I was interviewed by Jo Wood on her podcast, Alien Nation, 5 years ago. Jo was married to Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones. And she interviewed me, she interviewed Robbie Williams, Jean-Michel Jarre, Dan Aykroyd, about our alien experiences. And I'm going to pop that podcast underneath the YouTube copy of this if people want to listen to it, because it was good. We had a good giggle while we were doing the podcast on it. I'm not always that serious, guys. So there's that, it put my mind at rest, actually, because I believed it could be switched off, and I think it needs to be switched off, because what those programs that I watched are saying basically to the people is that the military in the US are not doing this to protect the people. They're doing it because they want the technology, so that they're the military superpower on the planet. And it's not about looking after humans at all. It's about power and corruption, and this selling the technology to who would be considered America's enemies. So American people need to wake up to this. They need to realize what's going on. I'm sure, like the UK and other countries and Canada, and they're all involved on some level or another. But what I wanted to bring into today was why they're here now so much. And in order to understand that, we need to backtrack a little bit into the meaning of life to a degree. Why are we here at this time? And I'm going to ask Laura to answer that one.
Well, I think we are here to, humanity is going through a huge shift in consciousness. And we are here right now to actually, and from my understanding, it's never been done before while we're in a physical human body. So this is kind of like not necessarily an experiment, but it's never been done before that our vibration, our level of consciousness is happening while we're in these physical bodies and not going on to another dimension. So we are here to actually help facilitate the shift that's happening not only with humanity, but the planet, and actually probably the universe and beyond. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa? What do you think? If somebody came to you who was completely unaware of any of the stuff that we talk about when we go and have our cuppa, how would you explain it to them?
I don't know if I would. There's so much, because everybody's journey with their consciousness is different. And so, like, when I tell people that I saw a spacecraft outside my balcony in June of 2021, they asked me if I was on anything. So, and then why didn't I take a picture? Well, the picture could not describe what I saw, so I had an eyewitness there instead. And he saw the same thing, my ex-husband. It was so big. I know you could see the compartments. It was magnificent. It was literally magnificent. But at the same time, I ran to the other end of my apartment, to the other balcony, and I looked up and it wasn't there. So they can cloak themselves, right? And so it depends on, number one, a person's experience, if they've had anything like that happen. And also, I find that if you have seen Stephen Greer's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind and Unacknowledged, he takes like this group of people who meditate transcendental meditations, and they call upon the ETs, and they come in different shapes, either an orb or a triangular shape. And the reason why I believe, after even watching that, why I believe they have been suppressed and not disclosed, it's because then our entire energy companies are going to go away. Our food supply is going to be looked at. Everything when it comes to our health, as well as the way what we drive, everything changes when they're disclosed. And so there's big machination of who's behind this that is very powerful. I believe that they're off-worlders as well, working with people that are here. But we do have power. And I think that's why a lot of this is suppressed, because we are so powerful. And we are here for a specific reason. I think everybody that is on planet Earth right now has their role. I think that we've had a blueprint coming in. We just don't remember what it is. And we'll be born, we'll get married, we'll go to college, we'll have families, we'll have divorces. And many of us will wake up, and many of us have blueprinted not to wake up. But that's just the way I see it. And I don't bother to try to, have a conversation now with somebody that is just, unless they ask or are curious what my experience is, because as if I know it all, I don't. You just listen to interviewers from whistleblowers and from other people, and it's like until you've had an experience, a lot of people just don't want to believe it, or they just won't register.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. What I meant when I asked that question was about why we are on the earth at this time rather than the ETs. Like, we're here because the frequency of the planet needs to go up into a higher bandwidth, if you like, into a higher level, so that we become purer and get more heart connected and start cleaning the planet and start putting things right. The damage and the rape and pillage that's happened to Mother Earth and the pollution on the planet and so on. A part of that raising of frequency means we're moving from 3D to 4D to 5D through 6D, 7D, 8D, and so on. And as far as I'm aware, we need to get into ninth dimensional consciousness in order to escape the war programs that are in this reality matrix. We talked about it being a simulation, a type of virtual reality that our soul and spirit come into to experience. And it's got polluted. That's what they talk about when they talk about the dark matrix, that there's all these polluted programs. So it's like we're in this virtual reality experience that's been polluted. And a lot of us that people refer to as light workers or starseeds have come back at this time in order to clear the past, to clear the history, the greed, the manipulation, the hate, the war, the racism, the sexism, and all of these other negative programs that have been an agenda for a long, long time to keep people down and weak and frightened and controlled and manipulated. And the reason that because we've reached a certain level, it's now time to introduce our brothers and sisters that are out in the universe. They've got the technology to come and help us. And I think that's why they came in and switched off the nuclear warheads. It's like, we don't want to fight. If they were the bad guys, why would they switch it off for 15 seconds and then give it back to the earthlings?
And that's just one instance, because there's other instances where they've melted nuclear weapons, rendered them completely useless, because it would have created a catastrophe, not just for our planet, but also across the entire galaxy.
Yeah. People are saying, when is there going to be disclosure? But my goal with today's podcast was the disclosure is there, guys. Go on Netflix, look up Top Secret UFO Project, go on Tubi and start looking at UFOs. And there's loads of information on there. So disclosure has been happening. It's already there. The proof, the evidence, the military that are speaking up, the whistleblowers, they're all there on Netflix, which as far as I'm concerned is mainstream. It's
mainstream.
Yeah, that is mainstream.
I agree. Well, like right now, like there was one guy that was on a podcast I listened to in the summertime. He was stating that there's classified documents that are being dropped on the internet right now, like dropped as in drips, because too much would be too much for most people. Our friends, our worlders, such as the Palladians, the Arcturians, they're channeling and helping with the downloads and the upgrades that we're getting. It's just like with everybody, it's different. So what's coming at you, it's like, why is it coming at you? Like Janine, you taught me that, be aware of your surroundings. And then, there's messages, right? There's messages out there for each and every one of us. And that's going to vary from individual to individual.
Yeah, you talk about upgrades and downloads. People at home might not know what that means. So I'm going to throw this back over to Laura. Laura, would you be kind enough to share with our listeners what an upload and a download is?
What, I
Upgrade,
mean, a down, so
an
a
upgrade
download
and
and an upgrade.
an upgrade and a download. Yeah, that's how I'll get there in the end.
So downloads are when you get information, whether it's intuition, whether it's just a knowing. I think for different people, it comes different ways. It's just like, I'm getting, I'm getting an upgrade. I'm getting new information is coming through, and it like solidifies. It's not like it's like a passing thing. It's like, oh wow, I'm getting something, right? Okay. And there our systems are upgrading. They're upgrading in frequency, they're upgrading in the information we're retaining. So like you can look at it kind of like a computer. I mean, that's where this terminology comes from, is when you download, you're saving something to the hard drive, and upgrades is actually a higher rate of functioning.
Okay, great. I keep thinking, we've been having these great conversations, and I thought, what if someone new comes in who's not even awake in a sense to any of this? It's like high level conversation to some people. And that's why I wanted to just kind of marry the why we're here, why the extraterrestrials are a part of this, because they are definitely going to be coming. They are going to be taking us into an amazing future. I watched that we are currently 100 years behind in our evolutionary growth because of the suppression of the technology that's there. But it's coming out. We're talking about, like you said, Lisa, not needing fuel anymore, anti-gravity propulsion cars and things like that, free electricity. It's all there, and it's been there for nearly 70 years. They've had this information has been suppressed. So when it does start to come out, because of the amount of energy that's coming into the planet at the moment, and we're recording this today, the 21st, which is the 6-planet alignment going on, what happens there is when the planets are in alignment, it's like a laser beam of source energy coming through all 6 of those planets. It's like everything's just dropped into place to be able to blast Mother Earth with this source frequency, this white light. Go outside, guys, look at the sun. It's not the sun it used to be.
Yeah.
It's brilliant white light. You can see
Blinding.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Completely different. People are talking about what's going on with the sun. That's what's going on with the sun. The sun is now a portal of source, God, one energy coming into the planet to raise our frequency. So if you think of it as if you got a cup of coffee, for example, a glass of like cold coffee, and you tip a bit of it out, so that's your healing, get rid of a bit of trauma, put some water in there, that's a bit of the sun coming in, and you keep doing that, get rid of my hate, a bit more water coming in, that's the sun coming in. By the time you keep doing that, that brown color is going to turn to watercolor. That's what the process is, basically. And our body is a liquid crystal that is polluted with the hate and the fear and the war and the racism and sexism and all this other stuff that's come down our ancestral lineage, because we inherit intergenerationally what's in their belief systems, what's in their DNA and their fears and what they've experienced. So we're in a process now of cleaning that out of our system and bringing more of this white light, which makes us more transparent to one another. And that's the bit of it I like. People can't lie to me anymore. People can say something to me anymore, but I feel through all of my whole sensory perception is going, nope, that's complete BS. What's coming out of their mouth, I can, and I'm sure Lisa can do it, and you probably can do it as well, Laura. We can hear, feel, sense people's thoughts. Mm-hmm. So people can't lie. These are the leaders that we need now. We need leaders that you could put on a biofeedback machine and they will shine these bright colors. Their heart is white. And people that are pure in their frequency, they can't get corrupted because there's no corruption programs in them to project into their reality. We talked about the law of projection on episode 1 and episode 2, I think, as well, a little bit. I know you had some questions, Laura, and I wanted to get some of those in.
Yeah, what also something just occurred to me about, timelines. There's got to be different timelines playing out in terms of disclosure. And that's probably really fascinating, is that the lower fear-based, oh my God, we're going to be attacked. The government can't save us. Like that's like the lower timeline. And then the higher timeline is what you were just talking about, which is all this technology, our brothers and sisters out there, like it's so clear. Like you can see the difference in timelines based on where you see this going. Anyway, that just occurred to me and I thought it's fascinating to look at that. It's so clear. Like there's very little sort of gray area. You're either on this timeline or with the fear and it's the end of the world, or you're on, wow, I can't wait for this technology and I can't wait for all of our dormant DNA to be back online so we can communicate and we can teleport and all these things that are coming. But what I was thinking about earlier before we got on is what does this mean? Like when disclosure happens or when there's some clear evidence. I mean, they're here. They're here in different forms and whatever, whether you want to believe that or not. I really believe that, a lot of them look like humans. You would never know. I mean, there are certain people, honestly, there are a few people that I know that personally, I was just like, they're such an alien. Like, there's no way this person is human. Like, they look human, but just some of the way they function and the way they speak, and it's like so off that I'm like, oh my God, they they are completely not in the same human level. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So I was just wondering, what will this mean for humans? It's so beyond our level of comprehension at this point. We think we know. We think we're ready, right? But just think about all of the past information or the lies or what's been suppressed or just our views, our programming on what our life is on Earth, then how that's all going to be blown out of the water because
Mhm.
it's so much bigger than us. And I'm just curious, what's that going to mean for humanity when this happens initially? And I'd love to know what you guys think about this, because I think everything anyone's ever believed in, whether it's religion, whether it's the government's ability to protect us, I think all this is just people are going to sort of be in a state of shock.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The thing is, and I'm going to pull back in the law of projection, and I know I've said this before, it's one of the most important things that I've ever learned in my life. The world around us is a projection of us. We see the world as we are, not as it is. And that's why everyone's got different perceptions. You can watch two people have an argument and they're seeing it from completely different viewpoints because they've got two different perceptions. We've been programmed, and no, I was when I was a kid. I watched all of the scary movies, like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers and all those old movies, and I loved it because there was a part of me. It's like they're real. I know they're real. As a child, I knew they were real. So I used to really love that stuff. But the subconscious mind absorbs everything as if it's real. So all of that negative stuff, movies and I watched all the Alien movies with my son when he was younger, and I enjoyed them. But they've gone into our subconscious, and the subconscious mind, I've said before, is a bit like a very innocent autistic child in that it doesn't know this is a movie; it thinks it's real, and it absorbs it all as real. So those of us that have watched all that stuff, or maybe even remember the War of the Worlds when that went out, people were committing suicide. They thought it was real and it was just a story on the radio. That needs to come out of our consciousness. So the people at home, if you've got this fear in there, you need to find a way of getting that out of your consciousness, the negative aspect of extraterrestrials coming to Earth. And I'm going to give you a free way of doing it. You can sun gaze when sun is coming up in the morning between sunrise and an hour afterwards, or when it's going down in the evening, sunset, an hour before and up to the sunset. And it takes a bit of practice, but you can sun gaze. So you stare at the sun basically, and you can visualize the sun's energy coming into your body, and you can ask Source, God, One, whatever you believe in, to dissolve and neutralize these negative, fearful, extraterrestrial UFO programs that have been inserted into your system, or maybe even from other lifetimes, because we've all had other lifetimes. and just sit there for 5-10 minutes, as long as you want, an hour if you want, if you've got an hour, and allow that healing to take place and get that out of your system. And the reason this is important is when disclosure does come, there are going to be different timelines. You do not want to be on the timeline with the dark ETs coming into the planet and causing chaos. And that timeline will exist. Our timeline is the beautiful, ETs coming in that have got high-tech stuff for us and technology that is way beyond all this nasty 5G stuff and everything else that is harming people, that we can move through that. If you think about what's the technology that's there now, they're 3D printers, how far they've come in the last few years. They're 3D printing homes now in a day, houses in a day. Remember when phones come out? They were a massive brick, like a satellite thing that you needed a bag to carry it in. It was so heavy. And look how tiny phones are now. So in the next 10 years, the 3D printing, for example, we could be printing furniture, we could be printing all sorts of things, because technology is going to move forward so quickly. And that part of it is the really exciting part of it, I think. So it's important to consider what's in your consciousness. And if you feel fearful, you need to get that out, or else you're going to be affected by a negative timeline, because that projects into your reality. Something to think about. I'm not trying to scare people. This is about education, guys. This is what healing's about. Healing's not about being sick. It can help if you're sick, but healing is about raising your frequency so that you create a better reality experience as a collective, because it's our collective frequency that creates what we experience in our reality. So there's work to be done, and people need to consider that. Lisa, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, that's a good point that you made, because everywhere we look, there's people that are waking up. You can see people on YouTube channels, you can see them on social media. And so obviously the energies that are coming, onto our planet are assisting us with that process. And so what I've been recognizing is that when you said raising our frequency, if our goal was to completely raise our frequency every day and just focus on being in our highest level of joy, that is the best help, rather than focusing on what the Kabbalah is doing, etc. And I did that when in 2020, 2021, I was all over that, down some rabbit holes, not all of them, but the ones that I obviously were curious about. It's not about love and light for me. It's about, I'm going to feel at my highest level of joy and make the main thing in my life the main thing. And that's happiness. And I take joy in just washing the dishes. And I put on my rubber gloves, and because a lot of people say, I hate doing dishes, I hate cleaning toilets, this and that. Well, why don't you change that experience for yourself?
Put some music on and sing while you're doing it.
Yeah. I have another friend, she had a sister that lived with her in her late 70s, passed away in May of 2024. And she was very busy. And every time I talked to her for probably 2 years, she would say, and she's in her mid 70s, and she would say, I'm just so busy, this and that. I said, well, whatever you're busy doing, make the most of it. Just enjoy every bit of that process. Because a lot of people right now they may have awakened and they're not sure what to do, or it's like, I have to do something in order for this awakening for me to be productive and useful in this awakening. And meanwhile, it's just like, no, you don't. You just have to be in your highest level of joy. Feel like I'm growing more so this way. And the less attachment I have to becoming successful, the more opportunity comes to me, I find. So I meditate every morning. I think that sets the pace for the day. Sometimes I listen to what the Arcturians are sending for messages. It seems to really resonate with me. Maybe not for a lot of people, maybe not for anyone else. Maybe it's what the Palladians, or maybe it's what Esther Hicks's, beautiful knowledge that Abraham has shared through her as a vessel. There's a lot to learn out there, but it is all about empowerment. Everybody's on a different dimensional access. And so, again, when you talk to somebody, what's going on with them, right? And the way they react about even the inauguration yesterday, where they're at. Let's just see what this guy can do. If you hate him, if you hate Mr. T, let's just see what he can do for the country, and then make through on those promises. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I've actually let go of some friends that were so hating on the man that I thought, we're on a different trajectory now. I can't even listen to it anymore. And what I do say to people, if they sit down and they start bashing him, and I'm not into politics. Everyone who knows me, I consider myself apolitical. It doesn't interest me. I don't know much about it because I don't let it into my consciousness on purpose. But when people start bad-mouthing people like Mr. T, I say to them, do you know what the law of projection is? And then I teach them that. They'll go, what's that? And it's like, what you see in other people is your own faults and your own greed and your own manipulation and your own lies, and own it. Because if you feel that you have to judge someone because of the way they behave, and even this week, somebody I know phoned me from England and said, what do you think about Trump? And I'm like, well, to be honest, I'm indifferent in what I think of him. But I did study him on YouTube and a lot of videos, watched him with his family 5 years ago. And a lot of people think very highly of him as a person. All they could say to me was, he's a narcissistic dictator and a womanizer. I'm like, well, they're three things you need to take out of your consciousness then, because that's not what I see when I look at him. I see somebody that's standing up for the people. And that's what he's come to do, because that's what resonates and that's what is being projected back to me. I don't, so what if he was a womanizer? There's a lot of men out there that if they had his money and opportunities would have had a lot of women. It's just the way the world is. You can't badmouth somebody for that. I don't buy into any of that, because it's just badmouthing people for the sake of it. And the same has gone with Robert Kennedy. Did you see that thing on Instagram? About 1,500 or 15,000, I can't, it was one or the other. Doctors have tried to get him kicked out of the FDA for misinformation. It's obvious the man has never said he's an anti-vaxxer. He just doesn't want people being poisoned. There's a big difference. And these anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theory, all of these names have been created by the CIA to attack the people that are trying to get the truth out. And that's happening a lot, but more and more people are waking up to it now. More and more people are waking up to it. It's like somebody sent me something today on Instagram. I opened it. It was a doctor talking about she had no idea how many chemicals were in these children's vaccines. And I went to share it, and it's a fact checker came up that misinformation, that there is no aluminium in vaccines and no mercury.
I thought that went away. I thought the
No.
fact checkers are gone. No?
That's
No,
on Facebook. Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to have gone
Facebook
away.
and Instagram.
Yeah, and Instagram.
Well, yeah, Facebook. Well, let's see how fast he handles that. I understand that all of this censorship and everything's happening for us to realize, for us to see that it's a control mechanism to suppress us and our views and sharing and all that. So I see the relevance of it. Why would they want to censor a discussion on what a person's perspective is? I've got a friend who's, her daughter, she had the HPV vaccine. She's a teenager. She's paralyzed in a wheelchair. And so, why can't she share her story? Or, how come that's just all of a sudden, bunk?
The censorship is still there. I was heavily censored on Instagram, and it really did me a lot of monetary harm through my business, a lot of harm. And today I was shocked to still see that fact checker thing came up. So have they lied to the public that we're not using fact checkers? Because the one popped up on Instagram today, that needs to be looked into by somebody. Thankfully, Trump's got TikTok back for people as well, because that's moving into control. When you're stopping what people can watch on the internet, it's wrong. We don't want to be living in a communist, completely controlled reality space. That's not what we're here to do. This planet was created to be heaven on earth. But we need to be pure enough to project that into our reality. So it's not about them. This is important as well, that people listening, it's not about them. It's not anyone outside of you that is going to make your world a beautiful world. It's you that's going to make your world a beautiful world, by letting go of the trauma in your system, the programs from our ancestors, who, let's face it, all of them were barbaric. You go back 1,000 years ago, they killed one another. rape, pillage. It was barbaric. It was just the way society was. We've all got darkness in our past, and that's in our DNA, and that needs to be taken out of the DNA. It needs to be deactivated in the DNA, which is the kind of work Laura and I do with our clients. You can change what's in your DNA. The 95% is not junk. It's a whole other area of conversation, but there is work to be done on a personal level for everyone if they want the world to become a better place. You can't just sit back and think that everyone else is going to do it for you. That's not the way it works.
No, and it's not like where you're tune in on the 6 o'clock news and get the full meal deal, right? It's not like that. It's just not going to happen that way. Again, we're dealing with all of us on different frequencies, different dimensional access. And so imagine that you're looking at a certain news network and then you're getting the news and then that's all that life is about. No, it's much more. That's what they decided to focus on. And a lot of it happens to be not very positive, and it makes people sad or angry or charged up. And
Yeah.
so, I see it for what it is because I was there before. I used to watch CNN, right? I used to despise Trump, and I fell totally into that. And when I woke up, it was like I saw it right in front of me. It was right in front of me what they were doing, and that's their job, obviously. Do I need to tune into that? No, I just tune into a different frequency. And I say this to Janine a lot, it's not part of my reality. I know what I can control about that situation, and I know what I can't control about that situation. Do I want to control it? No, but I can control how I respond to it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to add something to something, Lisa, you said earlier about people wanting to do something, feel like they need to do something. And you were just saying how, yeah, just be in your joy and find what makes you happy. And then there was something else I thought also that's a really good kind of addition to that. And that, Janine's always talking about neutrality. And people don't realize really, I think, sometimes what that means, because there is this tendency that we have to fight for something we believe in, right? So I'm going to fight against this. And yet what we're doing is we're actually giving energy to the thing that we're fighting against.
Yeah.
So it's expanding. So people think they're doing something really good. And I know so many people that they want to get out there and fight. And yet I've never been one. I don't go to marches. I don't protest.
Mm-mm.
It just felt like, no, it never felt right to me. And I thought, I'm helping in a quieter. I'm kind of like working behind the scenes. I'm not out there doing it. And it's not that easy. It's not that easy to be neutral. But you know what? If you get into the practice of it, it's really life-changing when you
Yeah.
can just look at something and just say, it just is. It's not good. It's not bad. I'm not going to make it mean something. And I just thought it was worth mentioning because it really, really is a powerful thing when you're aware of what actually being neutral means.
Yeah. And when people at home, you can tell where you are by how
Mm.
you see other people. If you're just maybe make a note, what I did years ago, because I haven't always been in this space. This is 21 years of work and dedication and meditation and self-healing and refinement. I used to be judgmental. I used to be very opinionated, and every now and then I can still drop into that if I'm, not having a good day. But what people need to understand is that the outside is a reflection of them. It's a mirror. Everything you're looking at is a mirror. There's people on the internet now that are sharing a lot of information about satanic Hollywood and all this stuff and all that stuff. And it's like, I watch it and think they just need to take that out of their consciousness, and then it's not going to affect them. Even all of that, when you get to a level of neutrality, you go, oh, I see. We live in a virtual reality simulator that is programmed by us, by our minds, our consciousness, and it's neutral. But we fall into light and dark because of our belief systems, what we've been programmed into us. Once you get those programs out, you're in the middle, you're in neutral, and you can see both sides of the coin, but it doesn't affect you. It's like, the people that are activists, like you said, activism, I had to take that out of my DNA. It's a program that you want to get out on the street and you want to fight for the rights of that male side of me wanted to fight for women and fight for children. And even a lot of the guys I know, my whole life, I've always had a girlfriend and a male friend. I've needed that balance, and I'll go off. I used to go off mountain climbing with my male friend and sit and chat and coffee and lunch with my girlfriend or whatever. I've always been balanced in that respect. When you realize that, when you're in neutral, life is just so much easier. That inner peace. Once you've had a taste of inner peace, it's like, this is what it's all about. This is what I need. I don't need a new car or a bigger house or, all these things, a new designer purse. I don't. I need just to have this peace and this bliss in myself. And that's what's lacking in the world, I believe. We're taught mind, body, health. The spirit is ignored because people are frightened of the word spirit. They think of ghosts when they say spirit. But the spirit is, I've said this in our other podcast, it's the essence of us that needs calm and peace and that bliss and that connection to God, one source, call it what you will. That's what's missing in the world. Meditation needs to be a daily practice. In schools, colleges, universities, we need to be brought up with it. That when we go into that no mind, we're all in the mind of God, of one. And that calm penetrates throughout the whole simulator, the whole virtual reality complex that we're experiencing, and the world becomes a better place. So it's all about education, really, but there's so much out there. When I got into this, like, where'd you go to find this information? And what's right and what's not, and people's perceptions. I've spoken before about when I was trying to find the truth, I went to the bookshop and there's all these books, hundreds and hundreds of books. How do you know which one's the truth? It's the truth based on where they are in their consciousness when they wrote that book. And that's when I went into that practice of, I did pray every night for about 5 years. And I asked, at the time I would say God, the first source and center of creation. And then I changed it to one because it's more unified and more eclectic in that respect. And I asked, help me to see, hear, know, think, feel, taste and touch divine truth, the purest form of truth. And it made a massive difference to what I started to learn. My perception of what I was learning changed completely because I wasn't buying into other people's truths, which is what's happening on social media. Somebody puts a picture up and said, this is happening. People start hating on it. They haven't even researched it to see if it's true.
Yeah.
That's how vulnerable and naive at the same time people are out there. So they're very easy to program in that respect. We're talking about the mind control and the programming that's gone on. This goes back to Nazi Germany. The Nazis moved from Germany to America. And all of that information has been used through television to program the consciousness through different channels. There's clues in the words. We're on the precipice of phenomenal change this next year to 18 months in particular, because we're still in this 60% historical change sun cycle. So people need to fasten their seatbelts, because if they've done the work, they're going to be happy like we are, and we can see things unfolding. Look what Trump's done in a day. TikTok's back, fluoride's coming out the water. There's good stuff happening in his first day. We need to get on it. We need to start leveling up ourselves and teaching it to children in school, because they are the future.
With our current education system, I don't think it's going to be there, but I think it starts in the home too, with parents, right?
Yeah. So let's just finish up then. I think this is a good time to end our third podcast. Thank you to everyone at home for listening, and thank you to you ladies for your input today. All very interesting stuff. And we'll see you next time on Talking Timelines. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks, everyone.
disclaimer. The content in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views, opinions, and information shared do not necessarily represent those of the hosts, but is provided for additional perspectives. None of the hosts are medical professionals, so we do not dispense medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any health-related issues. And thank you for listening to Talking Timelines.